Hi, welcome. This is the Join Us for Cadillac discussion. This is the caddyinfo.com. We do these Cadillac conversations on Thursday nights. Last week we were missing everybody. This week it looks like everybody is missing as well, but I'll keep going for just a moment. And in the meantime, I'll alert everyone that we're on in case anyone's still awake or is still able to join us. I was just watching the drive. Uh, it was posted as if it were a review, but it would actually just sort of a short commentary on the ATSV, which was extremely disappointing. But basically they had the car at a racetrack for the day or for some period of time, and they said, well, it's great, and the dynamics are great, and the driving is great, but he didn't like the looks of it as much as he liked walking walking away from a BMW and turning back and looking at it. That was his critique of the car, is that he personally preferred the look of the BMW over the look of the Cadillac. And so I was left with this feeling that they had not only wasted this, that the opportunity of having the ATSV at the track was wasted on them. They wasted the opportunity to drive and enjoy the ATSV with this review, and they wasted my time because I watched the review thinking that it was going to be an automotive discussion and not a beauty contest. And I very much like the looks of my ATSV, and I would not trade it based on looks for any of the BMWs. But even if that were the case, I expect an automotive review to be fair and balanced and actually contain content, which this one did not. I'll link the video. In this week's thread, so you can go see for yourself and see what you think. At least we got beautiful video of the ATSV on the track, so there's some benefit to that. You may want to just turn the sound off and enjoy the ATSV track B-roll. That could be an approach. I'm sorry, I got so wrapped up in that I not sending my invitations. Okay, so I'll send a second invitation. Sometimes the guys can't find it because of the intricacies of Google Plus and how Google Plus works. So, but sometimes it's just nobody's available. The Cadillac, and also the other piece of Cadillac news lately is Cadillac had asked for a copyright. I'm just going to unplug this. Cadillac had asked for a copyright on Book Cadillac. And so what this is going to be is not ride sharing where you, like Uber, where you summon and somebody comes and picks you up in their car, but for a vehicle sharing. So if I had an XLR and I needed a DeVille for the day, then I'd be able to go into Book Cadillac and get a DeVille or a CT6, because if I knew I was going to be carrying 6 people across the country and I needed a CT6, then that way you could book a Cadillac for the day. What that would also let people do is, especially if you were going to depend on ride sharing, what this lets you do is for those times when you really just need a vehicle dedicated to you for the day, like if you're going to take the kids to the zoo and you didn't want to, or the kids to the beach, you didn't want to put the kids and all their stuff in somebody's car for an hour and you just needed a vehicle for the day, then you could get an Escalade or a CTS or a CT6 and have it for the whole day instead of and still get by with not owning the car. Now, I personally love to own my own Cadillac, and so I highly recommend it. And I enjoy having the same car and having picking out the car that's very specifically what I wanted and so on. But if you're trying to go the other way, where you're just, I'm going to put and put a Twitter so that people know that we're live here on Google Hangouts. So so I personally enjoy owning my own car, but I know some people, especially in some cities, probably feel like they could get by with ride sharing. And this way, if they needed to have a Cadillac for the whole day, then they can use the vehicle sharing as opposed to owning the car, and just take it for your vacation, or just like you would a rental car, except easier, because you'll have an app, a Book Cadillac app, where you'll be able to load it up and they'll tell you what vehicles are available, and you can reserve a vehicle, and then one would presume have it delivered to your house, or soon vehicles will drive themselves and it'll just show up at your house at the optimal time. As we get ride sharing put together, I think as soon as autonomous vehicles come, they'll completely the ride sharing driver will become a thing of the past, because it'll be much cheaper to operate an autonomous vehicle than it is to pay someone to drive it. Yeah, there's going to be some additional expense in new autonomous vehicles over used cars that are running around right now, but I think very rapidly that's a job that will have popped up during this generation and disappear during this generation, all in one go. And so it'll be interesting to observe how that actually works out. I will say I was using a 14-day demo of Buzz Sumo, and so I appreciate the opportunity to use Buzz Sumo. And that's actually how I found that test/drive review, or I don't even, as I say, I don't think I'd call it a review. I would call it visual impression while driving of the ATS-V, and so I might not have seen that right away if it hadn't pulled up as a topic on BuzzSumo, and which is a subscription service, but you can do a 14-day free trial, which is what I did to see, what kind of value could I get out of it. And so far, that's been the best find is that it was helpful to point at that. It's also good for if you're trying to locate your tribe, in the sense that it will show you who else has been sharing that video. You can look to see, who's sharing the video around, and then identify them as someone who has similar interests to your own interest, and okay. And that way you can expand your network and, collaborate with more people who share your interests. All right, so I don't know that I have a lot of, I was getting a couple of questions from someone on Instagram, and their questions centered around, let me see if I can pull it up on the phone and I will repeat the questions. They were interested in the XLR, so they were asking me what my views on the XLR were. I had the XLR, of course, for several months, so I'm not the terrific expert on the XLR, but I really enjoyed it. All About Craft Beer on Instagram. So shout out for All About Craft Beer on Instagram. If you're wanting to follow me on Instagram, it's Caddy Info, at Caddy Info on Instagram, just like at Caddy Info, CADDYINFO on Twitter. So All About Craft Beer was asking about the XLR. The 2007 XLR is the one that I had. Of course, they started in 2004. The XLR was the max out Cadillac at the time, and had every wonderful features, heads-up display. It was built on the C5.5 chassis or C6.5 chassis, I forget which. But it was built at Bowling Green with the Corvettes. But they had a Corvette chassis, the Cadillac design body, still plastic, but it had a retractable hardtop that was actually done by so a European consortium of Mercedes and Porsche. And so so basically it was the Corvette chassis with the Cadillac engine, and then you could get it normally aspirated, which is the XLR, or in supercharged version, which is the XLR-V. In my experience with my XLR, if anything was wrong with the electronics, it showed up as a brake signal light, and the EBCMs, the electronic brake control module, are sensitive, in not just in the XLRs, but the Corvettes of the same era. If the EBCMs tended to be a maintenance item, which was unfortunate because they're fairly expensive. But I found out after I had purchased a new EBCM at the dealer to replace mine and had to have them replace it, was that you could actually get them rebuilt, where you order the rebuilt one and then replace yours and send it back in within a certain period of time. And so that's probably the smart and much less expensive way to repair your EBCM. But I actually kept, after I had gotten the EBCM fix, the car was still a little sensitive, where sometimes when I was working on the electronics, then it would it would stop, the computer would stop feeding data out. And what I finally discovered was that the brake pedal needed to be recalibrated. And so I had bought a GM Tech 2 and used that to recalibrate the brake pedal. So I would definitely say that if you want to own an XLR, more power to you. They're lovely cars. I enjoyed every moment I had it. And the only reason I traded it was that by trading the XLR and my STSV and all my pocket money, then I could afford to get an ATSV. And so if I hadn't been in that circumstance, and I only had one slot in the garage, and so done it up. But nothing against the XLR. But I would definitely say get a Tech 2, and you can get a real one on eBay and so on, or you can get a Chinese one, which is what I did for a significant discount. So you can get a Tech 2, and then there's a couple of other things that you want to have. Like there's if you ever do get stuck with where the car, you can't get it out of gear, then you need a T15 torque wrench, like this one, a T15 torque wrench. So I kept that handy with the car in case I ever had to undo the gear shift to get it out of gear, because some of the XLR owners had reported getting stuck that way. And so, but not a frequent thing. And I don't want to make it sound like the XLR was prone to have problems. That I think it was a very nicely put together car. I think it was a good design. That certainly my 2007, was 9 years old. And so you're going to have some ongoing maintenance challenges. The XLRs tend to be very low mileage though, because people buy them as weekend cars. The beautiful thing is that with the hard top up, it was very quiet. With the hard top down, it was a convertible. And the disadvantage of that is limited truck space. And compared with the Corvette, the XLR is more refined, but it has lower horsepower, compared with the same year Corvette, unless you go with the XLR-V, and then it's kind of then you get into odd comparisons. But certainly, and the XLRs are holding their value pretty well at the point they are now, that they're kind of at the flat part of the curve, and so may appreciate from here as people take care of them. But I would certainly say, I wouldn't warn anyone away from buying an XLR, but I would want you to know going in that you're not buying a brand new car, and it's going to need you to understand the XLR, to understand some of the idiosyncrasies about it. And so I would want to make sure that your eyes open going into your purchase in order to enjoy the vehicle. But there is a community around the XLR, and there are people that you can ask very specific questions about it. And there is some aftermarket support. There was a company that went in and bought all the old stock when GM was shoveling the old stock out of the factory. So they have a ton of unique parts for the XLR that you can purchase from them if you need replacements or to renew individual things. And certainly you don't see the XLRs coming and going everywhere on the street. So it's a lovely car that way. But I had the STSV, and it was ready to trade in on a CTSV or an ATSV. And I was just in a situation where if I traded my STSV and my XLR, I could get the ATSV and have one car in one parking space and be happy. And so that's kind of my whole summary of things to watch for on the XLR. I would also go to Oh, I pointed him at this, the xlr-net.com, xlr-net.com, which is an XLR online forum. And a lot of times you'll see people post their cars for sale there. Also, cars.com has a lovely search function where you can search for XLRs that are for sale in your neighborhood and enjoy it that way. But find a car that's in the range that you're looking for. But you're going to have to expect to pay, you know, $20,000 to $35,000 for an XLR, depending on which kind you want, and probably still $10,000 more for the XLR-V, which had the 440 horsepower supercharged 4.4 liter Northstar. So the XLR had the Northstar V8, which is the 4.6 liter. It was the rear wheel drive version of the Northstar. So 320 horsepower. And that's the thing, is compared with the LS engines in the Corvettes at the time, it didn't have more horsepower. But if you compared the XLR with its actual competitors from Lexus, from Mercedes, and so on, it had more horsepower than those cars, just fewer horsepower than the equivalent Corvette. But it wasn't a competitor for the Corvette. It was a competitor for the high-end luxury cars. The XLRs actually ran up to $100,000 in their day. The very first one sold out almost immediately because they did a run in the Neiman Marcus catalog when they first came out with the XLR, and they offered like 100 of them in plum, or some plum, some color similar to plum. My wife laughs that I only recognize 4 colors, but they so in some purplish color, they had offered the XLR, and it sold out like in 30 minutes or something from the Neiman Marcus catalog at a premium. My XLR was a xenon blue, which was a beautiful color. And I think when you went through the numbers of how many cars were made with xenon blue and had a black interior like this one, which is beautiful, there were like 11. So you couldn't ask for a more rare car in the scheme of things. So I wouldn't wave you away from getting an XLR, but as I say, if you're buying an XLR or any other 8 to 10-year-old car, then you should understand the specifics or eccentricities about that car. All right, so I don't see any of the other guys on. I'm going to flip very quickly over and make sure there wasn't some other Cadillac news that I was dying to share with you. I'm thinking that we covered the top things. I was trying to see if there was something else. Okay, so the on Twitter, it's Caddy Info. On Instagram, it's Caddy Info. If you ever want to be on the show, or you want to come talk about your Cadillac products, I did post a specific ad in the forums this week for a guy that's basically starting a new Cadillac product. And what he's doing is, what his company's doing is he's making aerodynamic blades that fit under the front, blades that go along the side, and then a piece that fits under the chin of the CTSV, I think the new CTSVs. And what it does is it gives it a little different look. So it's a splitter and side blades. So, and you can find that in our CTSV, in our V series forum, subforum on Caddy Info. So it's, let me say it right, Black Moon Products, blackmoonproducts.net. So if you go to blackmoonproducts.net, you can find out more about what they're doing over there. But basically, I really want to encourage, anytime people are coming out with new custom products for Cadillacs, then I think all of us who are Cadillac enthusiasts should stand up and cheer and encourage them and buy their products, because that's how we'll end up with companies willing to come out with more products for Cadillacs, is go buy the products that are available. Thank you for watching. Sorry the other guys weren't along tonight. And if you want to be on another night, then holler at me through Twitter, through Instagram, here on Google Plus, through YouTube, and let me know that that's what you want to do, and I'll help you figure out how to get set up so that you know, it's easy. You can use your phone to ring in and be on live on video, or I'll show you how to get set up with similar to what I've done here with the webcam and headset and everything. Thank you. Bye-bye.